The space station called Helix Prime floated in the darkness between three star systems. It was the largest military training academy in the known galaxy. Every year, young soldiers from more than 40 different alien species came here to learn how to fight together and protect the unified species coalition. Nathan Cole was one of those soldiers. He was 22 years old and came from a small farm in Kansas on planet Earth. He had never been to space before last month. Now he lived in a metal room with aliens, who looked nothing like him. Nathan stood at the window of his barracks and looked out at the stars. He still could not believe he was here. Back home, he had spent his days feeding chickens, fixing tractors, and helping his father with the cattle. Now he wore a gray military uniform and trained with creatures from distant worlds. His roommate was a being called Vrekanal. Vrekanal was from a species called the Korvathi. He stood almost 7 feet tall and had green scales covering his entire body. His eyes were the color of honey, and his hands had 4 fingers instead of 5. When Vrekanal walked, the floor shook a little because he was so heavy with muscle. Despite his scary appearance, Vrekanal was actually quite friendly. He had trouble understanding human jokes, but he tried to laugh anyway. Nathan liked him. The other roommate was Lissa. She was from a species called the Ilari. The Ilari looked almost human, but they were thinner and taller, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. Lissa could read minds. Not all the time and not deeply, but she could feel emotions from other people. She always knew when someone was sad or angry or afraid. Lissa was kind and spoke softly. She came from a peaceful world where her people solved problems by sharing their feelings directly. Violence was strange to her. She was at the academy because her government wanted to understand military culture, not because she wanted to fight. Nathan had been at Helix Prime for 3 weeks now. He had learned many things. He had learned that humans were not special in the galaxy. There were species that were stronger, faster, smarter, and more advanced. Humans were considered average in most ways. Their only interesting quality, according to the teachers, was that they adapted quickly to new situations, but the most important thing Nathan had learned was which species to avoid. At the top of that list were the Veneri. The Veneri were predators. Real predators. On their home planet, they had evolved as the deadliest hunters in their ecosystem. They stood over 7 feet tall, even taller than the Korvathi. Their bodies were covered in short gray fur. Their faces looked something like earth lions, but with sharper features and brighter eyes. Their eyes were gold, like drops of liquid metal. The Veneri had claws that could cut through steel. They had teeth that could crush bone. They could run faster than any human and see in complete darkness. They were built for killing. Most species in the coalition feared the Veneri. Some hated them. The Veneri had joined the coalition only 50 years ago, and trust was still difficult. Many people believed the Veneri were too aggressive, too dangerous, too wild to ever truly be allies. There was one Veneri at the academy. His name was Corax. Corax was a senior cadet, almost finished with his training. He was going to be an officer in the coalition fleet. Nathan had seen him in the training halls and in the cafeteria. Corax moved like a storm moving across a plain. When he entered a room, everyone noticed. When he walked down a corridor, other cadets stepped aside. Nathan watched the way people reacted to Corax. Even Vrekanal, who was strong enough to break rocks with his hands, avoided looking directly at the Veneri warrior. Lissa actually left rooms when Corax entered them. She said his emotions were too intense, too sharp. Being near him hurt her mind. Nathan was curious about this. He did not feel afraid of Corax. He felt interested. He wanted to know what made the Veneri so different from everyone else. One evening, Nathan was eating dinner in the cafeteria when he heard exciting news. The cadets at the next table were talking about something called Family Visitation Week. Apparently, family members of senior cadets could come to the station and stay for 7 days, and Corax had family coming. Nathan listened carefully. The cadets were saying that Corax's younger brother was coming to visit. A cub, a Veneri child. This made everyone nervous. Adult Veneri were frightening enough, but cubs were known to be unpredictable. They had not yet learned to control their hunting instincts. They might attack anything that moved in an interesting way, the Academy commander, Admiral Javine, made an announcement the next day. Admiral Javine was a Thessarian, a species that lived in water on their home planet but could survive in air with special equipment. She had gills on her neck and blue-green skin that was always slightly wet. The Admiral explained that the Veneri cub, named Threx, would be staying in special family quarters on the station. Threx was 6 cycles old, which was equal to about 4 human years. He was very young and very curious. All cadets were ordered to maintain a respectful distance if they saw the cub in any common areas. The warning was clear. Stay away from the little predator. Nathan thought about this as he lay in his bunk that night. Vrekanol was already asleep, making rumbling sounds that might have been snoring. Lissa was meditating quietly in her corner of the room. Nathan remembered growing up on the farm. He remembered the dogs that ran through the fields, barking and playing. He remembered the barn cats that scratched and bit when they were feeling wild. He remembered the summer when he was 14, when his father had taken him to a wolf sanctuary to help with a rescue operation. The wolves at the sanctuary had been dangerous. Really dangerous. They could kill a man easily. But Nathan had learned something important from the handlers there. He learned that not every growl was a threat. Not every show of teeth meant attack. Sometimes predators just wanted to play. Nathan wondered if the same was true for the Veneri. He fell asleep thinking about golden eyes and sharp teeth 7 days later. His question would be answered in a way that nobody expected. The family visitation week began on a Monday by Earth calendar. Nathan watched as strange ships docked at the station, bringing parents and siblings and children from across the galaxy. The corridors became crowded with civilians. The cafeteria was full of families eating together and talking about home. Nathan had no family visiting him. His parents were still on Earth, running the farm. The trip to Helix Prime was too expensive and too long for them. Nathan understood this. He did not feel sad about it. He sent them video messages every week, and that was enough, but he did feel a little lonely watching other cadets hug their mothers and fathers. Vrekanol's family did not come either. The Korvathi believed that soldiers should not see their families during training. It was considered a distraction. Vrekanol agreed with this tradition, though Nathan noticed that his roommate spent more time looking out the window that week. Lissa's family also did not visit. The Alari did not need to. They could connect their minds across vast distances. Lissa spent an hour each night sitting very still with her eyes closed, communicating with her family through pure thought. Nathan thought this was both amazing and slightly creepy. On the 3rd day of visitation week, Nathan saw Korax with his younger brother for the first time. Nathan was walking through the main corridor when he noticed a crowd of cadets standing very still near the entrance to the training complex. They were all staring at something. Their faces showed fear. Nathan pushed through the crowd to see what was happening. Korax stood in the center of the corridor. He looked even more impressive up close. His gray fur was clean and well-groomed. His golden eyes swept across the watching cadets with something that might have been amusement or contempt. It was hard to tell with Veneri expressions, but Nathan was not looking at Korax. He was looking at the small figure standing beside the warrior. Threx was tiny compared to his brother. He stood only about 3 feet tall, roughly the size of a human toddler. His fur was softer and lighter than Korax's fur, more silver than gray. His eyes were the same gold color, but they were wider and rounder, giving him an innocent appearance. The cub was beautiful, Nathan thought. Beautiful and deadly. Even at this young age, Threx had visible claws and small sharp teeth. His movements were quick and precise. Like a cat watching a bird, Threx was looking at everything around him with intense curiosity. His ears moved constantly, tracking sounds. His nose twitched as he smelled the air. He was taking in every detail of this new environment, and his eyes found Nathan for a brief moment. The cub stared directly at the human. Nathan felt a strange sensation, like being measured and weighed. He did not look away. He stared back calmly. Korax noticed the exchange. He placed a large hand on his brother's shoulder and guided him away. The crowd parted quickly to let them pass. Everyone was afraid to get too close. But Nathan had seen something in the cub's eyes, something that the others had missed. It was not hunger or aggression. It was curiosity. Pure, childish curiosity. The cub wanted to know what this strange, two-legged creature was over the next few days. Nathan caught glimpses of Threx around the station. The cub was always with his brother or with a Veneri guardian. He was never alone. But every time Nathan saw him, Threx seemed to be watching the other species with that same intense interest. Nathan noticed something else too. The cub was bored, Threx was young and full of energy, but he had no one to play with. Other Veneri children were far away on the home planet. The cadets at the academy were too afraid to go near him. Even the civilian visitors kept their distance, pulling their own children away whenever Threx came close. The little predator had no friends. Nathan felt sorry for him. He remembered being young and lonely himself, back when his family first moved to the farm and he knew nobody in the area. He remembered how much it hurt to have no one to play with. On the 7th day of visitation week, Nathan finished his evening training late. His muscles were sore from combat practice, and his mind was tired from tactical simulations. He just wanted to get some food and go to sleep. The corridors were quiet. Most people were in their quarters or in the social areas. Nathan walked through the recreation commons, a large open space with seating and viewing screens where cadets usually gathered during free time. Tonight, the commons was empty. The lights had been dimmed to simulate evening hours. Nathan's footsteps echoed on the metal floor. Then he heard a sound. It was a soft rustling noise, coming from behind a row of seating modules. Nathan stopped. He listened carefully. The sound came again, followed by a small clicking noise, claws on metal. Nathan's heart beat a little faster. He knew what made that sound. He had heard Corax's claws clicking in the corridors many times, but this sound was lighter, smaller. Slowly, Nathan walked toward the seating modules. He moved quietly, not wanting to startle whatever was hiding there. He came around the corner and looked down. Threx crouched in the shadows. The cub was alone. Completely alone. There was no Corax, no guardian, no adult watching over him. Somehow, the little predator had escaped from the family quarters and found his way here. Threx's golden eyes locked onto Nathan. The cub's body went low, pressing against the floor. His ears flattened against his head. His lips pulled back to show rows of tiny sharp teeth, and then he snarled. It was a high-pitched sound. Not as deep as an adult Veneri, but still frightening. It was a warning. A threat. A challenge. At that exact moment, the door behind Nathan slid open with a soft hiss. Nathan glanced back and saw Lisa, Vrekanol, and 3 other cadets enter the commons. They were talking quietly among themselves, probably heading to the viewing screens to watch something before sleep. They saw Nathan. They saw what was in front of him. They stopped dead. Lisa gasped. It was not a normal gasp. It was a telepathic burst of fear that hit everyone in the room like a wave. Nathan felt it wash over him, trying to make him panic. Vrekanol's scales changed color, shifting from green to a pale yellow-white. Nathan had learned that this meant extreme alarm in Korvathi body language, one of the other cadets. A small furry being from a species Nathan did not know well, made a whimpering sound and took 3 steps backward. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Threx snarled again, louder this time. His claws scraped against the floor as he took a step toward Nathan. Vrekanol whispered in a voice tight with fear. Do not move, human. Do not make any sudden motions. Veneri cubs are not like adults. They cannot control their instincts. If he thinks you are prey, he will attack. Lissa's mental voice entered Nathan's mind, trembling with terror. I can feel his emotions. He is excited. He is ready to hunt. Nathan, please, please do not do anything. Nathan looked at the small predator crouching before him. He looked at those golden eyes, bright and eager. He looked at those tiny teeth bared in what everyone else saw as a threat. And Nathan saw something different. He saw a puppy growling during a game of tug-of-war. He saw a kitten pouncing on a ball of string. He saw a Volf cub at the sanctuary, play fighting with its siblings. Nathan understood what Threx was doing. The cub was not hunting. The cub was not threatening. The cub was playing. Nathan smiled. Then he did something that made everyone in the room scream inside their minds. He crouched down, bared his own teeth, and growled right back at the little predator. The growl that came from Nathan's throat was deep and rough. It vibrated in his chest and rolled out through his bared teeth. It was not a human sound. It was something older, something from a time when humans had lived in caves and competed with wolves for food. Threx stopped moving. The cub's ears perked up. His head tilted to one side, then the other. He looked confused. This was not the reaction he expected. Every other creature in the galaxy responded to a Veneri threat display in the same way. They either ran away or they froze with fear. They never, ever growled back. That was not how prey behaved, but this strange two-legged creature was not running. It was not freezing. It was crouching low, showing its teeth, and making a challenging sound. Threx made a small noise that was almost a question. Nathan growled again, softer this time. Then he did something even stranger. He laughed. The sound filled the quiet commons. It was warm and genuine, coming from deep in Nathan's belly. His eyes crinkled at the corners. His whole body relaxed. He looked at the small predator with pure joy behind him. The watching cadets could not believe what they were seeing. Lissa felt her mind spinning with confusion. She could read emotions, and the emotions coming from Nathan made no sense. He was not afraid. He was not even nervous. He was happy. Genuinely, completely happy. Rekinel stood frozen in place. His warrior training told him to do something to help his human roommate. But he could not move. The situation was too strange, too impossible. No one had ever laughed at a Veneri predator before. Nathan spoke to the cub in a low, gentle voice. "Hey there, little buddy. You think you are so scary, do you? You think you can frighten me?" Threx, CHIRPED. It was a sound that none of the watching cadets had ever heard before. Veneri did not chirp. Adult Veneri growled and snarled and roared. But this was something different. This was a sound that cubs made when they were curious, when they were interested, when they wanted to play. Nathan recognized it immediately. He had heard similar sounds from the young wolves at the sanctuary. It was an invitation. The cub wanted to play. Threx lowered his body even more, his hindquarters rising slightly. His tail began to swish back and forth. His golden eyes were bright with excitement. He was getting ready to pounce. Nathan knew what was coming. He had seen puppies do the same thing 1,000 times. "Okay," he said softly. "Show me what you have got." Threx launched himself at Nathan. The cub moved fast, faster than any earth animal Nathan had ever seen. He was a blur of silver fur and sharp claws, flying through the air directly at Nathan's face. Rekinel shouted a warning. Lissa screamed in her mind. One of the other cadets actually fainted, but Nathan was ready. He caught the cub in mid-leap, wrapping his arms around the small furry body. The impact sent them both tumbling backward. Nathan rolled with the motion, protecting the cub while letting the momentum carry them across the floor. They stopped in a tangle of limbs. Nathan on his back with Threx on top of him. The cub snarled and nipped at Nathan's arm. Tiny teeth pressed against the fabric of his uniform but did not break the skin. Threx was not really biting. He was pretending to bite. He was play fighting. Nathan laughed harder than before. "Oh, you got me." The mighty hunter caught his prey. Threx chirped again and attacked Nathan's hand. His claws came out, but only a little, just enough to scratch the material without cutting through. The cub was being careful. He did not want to actually hurt this strange playmate. Nathan played along. He let Threx win their little struggle, rolling from side to side and pretending that the cub was too strong for him. He made exaggerated sounds of defeat while Threx pounced and grabbed and growled. The watching cadets could not move. They stood like statues, watching something that should have been impossible. A human was wrestling with a Veneri cub. A human was playing with one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. And both of them were having fun. After a few minutes, Threx seemed to tire of the active play. He climbed onto Nathan's chest and sat there, looking down at the human with an expression of satisfaction. His tail curled around his feet. His ears relaxed forward, then the cub made a new sound. A low, rumbling vibration that came from deep in his chest. He was purring. Lissa made a small choking noise. "That is not possible," she whispered. "Veneri do not purr. They are not capable of making that sound." But Threx was clearly purring. The sound filled the quiet commons, soft and warm and content. The cub closed his golden eyes halfway and began to knead Nathan's jacket with his tiny claws. Nathan lay very still, afraid to disturb the moment. He had seen cats do this same thing. It was a comfort behavior, something young animals did when they felt safe and happy. The cub was treating Nathan like family. "Good boy," Nathan murmured. "Good little hunter. You did so well." Threx purred louder and curled up into a ball on Nathan's chest. Within moments, the cub was asleep. Nathan looked up at the ceiling of the commons and smiled. He could feel the warm weight of the sleeping predator on his chest. He could feel the tiny heartbeat, fast and strong. He could hear the soft purring that continued even in sleep. This, Nathan thought, was worth coming to space for. He lay there quietly, not wanting to wake the cub. The other cadets slowly came closer, moving like they were approaching a bomb that might explode at any moment. Rekinal reached Nathan first. The Cravathi warrior looked down at his human roommate with an expression that Nathan could not read. His scales had returned to their normal green color, but his eyes were wide with something that might have been wonder. "How did you know?" Rekinal asked in a low voice. "How did you know he would not kill you?" Nathan thought about the question. He thought about his childhood on the farm. He thought about all the animals he had known, all the predators he had learned to understand. "I just knew," he said simply. I could see it in his eyes. He was not hunting. He was playing. "There is a difference." Lissa came closer, her blue face pale with leftover fear. "Humans can see that difference?" "Some of us can," Nathan said. "When you grow up around animals, you learn to read them. Dogs, cats, wolves, they all play like this when they are young. They growl and bite and scratch, but they do not mean it. It is how they learn to be social." "But the Veneri are not Earth animals," Rekinal pointed out. "They evolved on a completely different planet. How could you know that their play behavior would be similar?" Nathan shrugged carefully, trying not to wake Threx. "I did not know for certain. I just guessed. He looked like a puppy to me, so I treated him like one." Lissa shook her head slowly. "You could have died." "Maybe," Nathan admitted, "but I do not think so. Look at him. He is just a kid. He just wanted someone to play with." The sleeping cub purred contentedly on Nathan's chest, completely unaware of the shocked cadets surrounding him. Nobody said anything for a long moment. They just stood there, watching the impossible scene before them, a human and a Veneri cub, peaceful together, a prey species and a predator species, lying together in trust. It should not have been possible. But there it was. Then the door to the commons burst open, and Corax arrived. Corax came through the door like a thunderstorm. His massive body filled the entrance. His golden eyes blazed with worry and anger. His claws were fully extended, ready for battle. The other cadets scrambled to get out of his way. Rekinal pulled Lissa behind him, placing his large body between her and the Veneri warrior. The other cadets pressed themselves against the walls. Nathan stayed on the floor. He did not move. The sleeping cub on his chest continued to purr softly, unaware that his brother had arrived. Corax's eyes swept across the room. He saw the frightened cadets. He saw the human lying on the ground. He saw his baby brother curled up peacefully on the human's chest. He stopped. For a long moment, Corax just stared. His expression was difficult to read. The anger slowly faded from his face, replaced by something that might have been confusion. "Explain this," Corax said. His voice was deep and rough, but quieter than anyone expected. Nathan spoke carefully, keeping his voice calm. "Your brother found me here. He wanted to play. So I played with him." Corax took a step forward. Then another. The cadets watched him come closer, terrified of what might happen. Nobody tried to stop him. Nobody dared. The massive predator stood over Nathan and looked down at his sleeping brother. Threx's small chest rose and fell with each breath. His tiny paws twitched as he dreamed about hunting. My brother does not trust strangers, Korax said slowly. He has been on this station for 7 days. In that time, he has attacked 3 handlers who tried to care for him. He bit a security officer who came too close. He refuses to eat if anyone but me is watching. Korax paused. His golden eyes moved from Threx to Nathan. And yet here he is, sleeping on a human, purring like he is safe at home. Nathan did not know what to say. He just shrugged slightly. Korax made a strange sound in his throat. It took the watching cadets several seconds to realize he was laughing. It was not a human laugh, but it was clearly amusement. You are strange creatures, you humans, Korax said. I have studied your species since I joined the coalition. I have read about your history, your wars, your culture. I thought I understood you. He crouched down, bringing his face closer to Nathan's level. This close, Nathan could see every detail of the Veneri warrior's face. The short gray fur, the sharp teeth, the eyes like pools of liquid gold. I was wrong, Korax continued. I did not understand you at all. Nathan met the predator's gaze without looking away. What do you mean? Every other species in this galaxy looks at my people and sees monsters. They see killers. They see death. Even the ones who call themselves our allies keep their distance. They shake hands with us and smile, but in their hearts they are afraid. Korax reached down and gently lifted his sleeping brother off Nathan's chest. Threx made a small sound of protest but did not wake up. The cub curled against his brother's massive chest and continued to purr. But you, Korax said, looking at Nathan with new eyes, you saw my brother threatening you. You saw claws and teeth. And you laughed. You played with him like he was your own kin. Nathan sat up slowly. His back was sore from lying on the hard floor, but he ignored the discomfort. He is just a child, Nathan said simply. He was not threatening me. He was inviting me to play. I recognized the behavior. Lissa stepped forward, finding her courage. How could you recognize it? Veneri body language is completely different from human body language. Our xenobiologists say that cross-species communication is nearly impossible without years of study. Nathan thought about how to explain. It was hard to put into words. The knowledge came from somewhere deep inside him, from a place that did not use language. On my home planet, he began, humans did not evolve alone. We shared our world with many predator species. Wolves, bears, big cats, dogs. They could have killed us easily. In the early days, many of them did. He paused, remembering the stories his father used to tell. But something strange happened. Instead of just fighting these predators, humans started to understand them. We watched them. We learned their body language. We figured out when they were hunting and when they were playing. Over thousands of years, we became partners with some of them. We domesticated wolves into dogs. We kept cats in our homes. We formed relationships with animals that could kill us with one bite. Vrekanol made a sound of disbelief. You domesticated predators? How is that possible? I do not know the science behind it, Nathan admitted. But the result is clear. Humans developed an instinct for reading predator behavior. We can tell the difference between a real threat and a playful one. It is built into us somehow. Korax was listening carefully. His eyes had changed, becoming thoughtful instead of guarded. When Threx snarled at me, Nathan continued, I could see that his body language did not match a real attack. His muscles were loose instead of tight. His eyes were bright with excitement instead of focused for the kill. He was bouncing slightly, like he was hoping I would play along. He smiled at the memory. So I did play along. I growled back to show him I understood the game. I laughed to tell him I was not really threatened. And then I let him catch me, because that is what you do when you play with young predators. You let them win sometimes. The room was completely silent. Every cadet was staring at Nathan like he had just performed magic. Korax stood up, still holding his sleeping brother. He looked around at the frightened faces of the other cadets. Then he looked back at Nathan. My people have been trying to earn the trust of other species for 50 years, he said. We have sent diplomats and warriors and scholars. We have signed treaties and made promises. But still, everyone fears us. Even the species who have fought beside us in battle. Even the species who owe us their lives. He shook his head slowly. In one night, this human has done what all our diplomats could not do. He has shown that trust between our species is possible. He has treated my brother like a friend instead of a threat. Korax walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back over his shoulder. I will remember this, Nathan Cole. My people will remember this. You have given us something we have not had before. What is that? Nathan asked. Korax's mouth curved into something that was almost a smile. Hope? The massive predator left the room, carrying his sleeping brother gently in his arms. The door closed behind him with a soft hiss. For a long moment, nobody spoke, then Vrekinol let out a breath he had been holding. That was the most incredible thing I have ever seen. Lissa sat down heavily on one of the seating modules. Her hands were shaking. I thought you were going to die. I really thought you were going to die. Nathan stood up and brushed off his uniform. He was tired and his muscles ached, but he felt good. Really good. I was never going to die, he said. Threx just wanted a friend. Sometimes that is all any of us want. He smiled at his roommates. Now, if you will excuse me, I need some sleep. Playing with predator cubs is exhausting. He walked out of the commons, leaving a room full of stunned cadets behind him. None of them slept well that night. They all kept thinking about what they had witnessed. A human who was not afraid of predators. A human who could speak their language without words. They did not understand it, but they knew they had seen something important, something that would change everything. News of what happened in the recreation commons spread through the academy faster than light travels through space. By the next morning, every cadet on Helix Prime had heard some version of the story. A human had played with a Veneri cub. A human had growled at a predator and laughed. A human had done the impossible. Nathan found himself being stared at wherever he went. Cadets from species he had never met before stopped him in corridors to ask questions. Is it true that you wrestled with the cub? Is it true that he fell asleep on your chest? Is it true that Korax thanked you? Nathan answered their questions patiently, but he did not understand why everyone was so interested. To him, it had just been playing with a child. It was not that remarkable, but to everyone else, it was a miracle. 2 days after the incident, Nathan received a message on his personal communicator. Admiral Javine wanted to see him in her office. Immediately, Nathan had never been to the Admiral's office before. He had never even spoken to the Admiral directly. As he walked through the corridors toward the command section of the station, his heart beat a little faster. Was he in trouble? Had he broken some rule by playing with Threx? The Admiral's office was large and filled with water. Admiral Javine was a Thessarian, and her species needed to stay wet to survive. The entire room was designed like a pool with raised platforms for air-breathing visitors. The Admiral floated in the center of her pool, her gills moving gently as she breathed. Her blue-green skin shimmered under the special lights. Her eyes were large and dark, watching Nathan with obvious interest. Please sit, she said. Gesturing to one of the platforms, Nathan sat down and waited. The Admiral studied him for a long moment before speaking. I have watched the security footage from the Recreation Commons. I have watched it 17 times now. Each time I see the same thing, and each time I cannot quite believe it. Nathan did not know how to respond, so he stayed quiet. I have also consulted with our xenobiologists and behavioral specialists, the Admiral continued. They have analyzed your actions in great detail. They are fascinated by what you did and how you did it. She swam closer to Nathan's platform. Tell me, Cadet Cole, did you know what you were doing when you growled at that cub? Did you have a plan? Nathan thought carefully about his answer. No, Admiral. I did not have a plan. I just reacted. When I saw Threx snarling at me, something inside me recognized what he was doing. It felt natural to respond the way I did. Natural, the Admiral repeated. She seemed to consider the word carefully. That is an interesting choice of words. She turned and swam to a control panel on the wall of her pool. A holographic display appeared in the air above the water. What do you know about the evolution of your own species, Cadet Cole? Nathan shrugged. Basic facts. We evolved on Earth over millions of years. We developed tools and language and civilization. Yes, the Admiral said. But there is something else. Something that makes humans unique among all the species in this coalition. The holographic display showed images of ancient Earth, forests, and grasslands and caves. And scattered throughout these images were predators. Wolves, lions, bears, eagles. Most intelligent species in the galaxy evolved from prey animals, the Admiral explained. Their ancestors survived by running away from danger. Their instincts tell them to flee from predators, to hide, to avoid conflict at all costs. She changed the display to show ancient humans alongside wolves. But humans evolved differently. Your ancestors did not just run from predators. They competed with them. They watched them. They learned from them. And eventually they formed partnerships with them. Nathan nodded slowly. This matched what he had told the other cadets after the incident with Threx. Over thousands of generations, the Admiral continued, humans developed something that no other species possesses. You developed an instinct for understanding predator behavior. You can read their body language. You can tell when they are truly dangerous and when they are simply playing. She swam back toward Nathan, her large eyes fixing on his face. What you did with young Threx was not luck. It was not bravery. It was something deeper than that. It was a million years of evolution expressing itself through your actions. Nathan felt strange hearing his simple response described in such grand terms. Your laughter was the key, the Admiral said. In human social behavior, laughter signals safety. It tells others that the situation is not serious. When you laughed at Threx, you were communicating something that no words could express. You were telling him that you saw him as a playmate, not as a threat. She paused. And Threx understood. His species may have evolved on a different planet, but the language of play is universal. He recognized what you were doing and responded in kind. The Admiral turned off the holographic display. Do you understand why I'm telling you this, Cadet Cole? Nathan shook his head. For 50 years, the Unified Species Coalition has been trying to build trust between the Veneri and other species. We have sent diplomats and translators. We have created cultural exchange programs. We have written papers and held conferences. All of it has failed. She made a gesture that Nathan understood as a sigh. The other species cannot stop fearing the Veneri. Even when they know logically that the Veneri are allies, their instincts scream at them to run away. They cannot help it. It is how they evolved. But humans are different, Nathan said, beginning to understand. Yes, humans are different. You do not have the same instinctive fear of predators. You can stand face to face with a Veneri and see them as equals instead of threats. You can play with their children and laugh at their growls. The Admiral swam close enough that Nathan could see every detail of her unusual face. I am assigning you to a new special project. Cadet Cole, you will work directly with Corax and other Veneri personnel to develop new protocols for cross-species cooperation. Your natural abilities make you the perfect candidate for this work. Nathan was stunned. This was not what he had expected when he came to the academy. He had thought he would just be a regular soldier. I do not know if I am qualified for something like that, he said honestly. The Admiral made a sound that might have been a laugh. You are the most qualified person in this entire coalition. You have already done more for Veneri relations in one night than all our diplomats have done in 50 years. She turned away, swimming back toward the center of her pool. The assignment begins tomorrow. Corax has specifically requested you. It seems young Threx has been asking about you constantly. The cub wants to play with his new human friend again. Nathan could not help smiling at that. 3 years later, Nathan Cole graduated from the academy at the top of his class. He had learned tactics and strategy and leadership, but more importantly, he had helped create something new. The Human Veneri Cooperation Initiative had grown from a small project into a major program. Human cadets were now assigned to Veneri units throughout the Coalition fleet. They served as cultural bridges, helping predator and prey species work together without fear. Corax became Nathan's closest friend. The massive predator who had once terrified everyone had turned out to be thoughtful and loyal. They served together on 3 different missions, watching each other's backs in combat and sharing meals during peaceful times, and Threx grew up knowing that humans were friends, not prey. He told other Veneri children about the strange creature who had growled back at him and laughed. He became a symbol of the new relationship between species. On the day Nathan received his commission as an officer, Corax stood beside him. The Veneri warrior placed a massive hand on Nathan's shoulder and spoke words that would be remembered for generations. When my brother snarled at you that night, you could have run. You could have frozen. You could have acted like every other species acts when faced with a predator. But you did not. You saw a child who wanted to play. You saw loneliness instead of danger. You responded with joy instead of fear. Corax's golden eyes were warm. That is why humans will change everything, Nathan. Not because you are stronger or smarter than other species, but because you can look at a predator and see a friend. You can hear a growl and know it is an invitation. You can meet fear with laughter. Nathan thought about his childhood on the farm. He thought about the dogs and cats and wolves he had known. He thought about all the lessons he had learned without even realizing he was learning them. Sometimes the bravest thing in the universe was not fighting a predator. Sometimes it was playing with one dot, and sometimes the most powerful weapon was not a gun or a ship or a bomb. Sometimes it was a laugh. The story of Nathan, Cole, and the Veneri cub spread throughout the galaxy. It became a legend. It became a lesson. It became hope. And it all started because a human looked at a snarling predator and thought the same thing he had thought 1,000 times before. Back on a small farm in Kansas, that little guy just wants to play. The end.